Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Shadow Radio. This is Amanda, and today we're going to be talking with Brett. How you doing, Brett?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm ready to recap a little bit of these Yellowbanks. What questions you have for me today?
All right. Can you inform us a little bit about Yellowbanks, like the history-wise, and what led you guys back to the location?
Well, what led us to that location first off is because of the history. One of the first settlers in the area at that time when Yellowbanks was getting found was the first Nebraska treasurer. He sort of lived off grid. They ended up having his funeral service out there under one of the largest elm trees. That was pretty awesome history itself. And then we stumbled across the fact that there were four different homicides and a suicide that took place out there. So we had to, also pay attention to that because we don't want to drop names. We didn't drop any names of the victims. We didn't drop details, stuff like that. And we let the evidence sort of speak for itself on this one.
Understandable by far. What kind of vibes was this location given off before, during, and after the investigation?
All right, so before the investigation, as we're pulling up, it was just like, okay, we were hearing some big sounds coming from the distance, which that could have been related to the fact maybe people were out there hunting, shooting guns, whatever.
Right.
Well, we were getting ready to make our way down there, and we started getting movements in the trees and stuff right by us, like big movements, not just like a branch snapping or something like that.
Okay.
And so it sort of put us on edge, be wary of our surroundings.
Understandable.
What could be there, stuff like that. During the investigation, though, I want to say, during the investigation, the EVPs were pushing. It was weird. The EVPs were pushing intelligence, and it was like making our minds sort of think about everything, that was going on and that had happened there and stuff like that.
Right.
After the investigation, though, it was calming. It was calming after everything that we had to sort of endure during the investigation.
Right. It makes perfect sense. Would you care to elaborate some of the hardships that you guys dealt with on this episode?
Yeah, some of the hardships on this episode, man, where do I start? So as we're going down, obviously, there's a section of the video that ain't there. This section of the video isn't there because we were getting stung by wasps.
Oh, gosh.
That is definitely the first hardship of the night, I would have to say, was we were getting stung by wasps. I've been down after holding this tree trunk down so the guys could step over it. Kyle and Trey both get stung. I look down, I get stung on my arm. We end up making our way back through the woods to a different area of the woods. We're no longer getting stung at this point in time. And we do our EVP session for Yellowbanks itself.
Right.
Then there was a point where we were all going up a hill. Kyle almost fell down the hill because of how steep it was.
Right.
And everything you got for grippage isn't even rooted in the ground and stuff like that. I ended up tripping over a vine. The vine actually connected at the waist and flipped me, and I lost my wedding band. So now I'm rocking a different wedding band because I couldn't find it. Tried, couldn't find it. Not just that, there were sandburs. There were vines. There were thorns on these vines and thorns on the trees. It was definitely an interesting hike, to say the least. And, so those were the hardships we endured through the night.
Those sound pretty hard. I was so sorry that you guys had to go through that, but glad you guys did because you got a great...
It was a great experience.
Yes,
it was.
It
and
seems
definitely
like it.
Some bonding.
For sure. Were you surprised by some of the EVPs? Because I thought I heard it said, look at the trees.
Yeah, that EVP right there was pretty surprising to me. It was just on static noise, and at the time, a whole sentence like that came through our SB7 box saying, "Look in the trees." Very, 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 very intelligent, I would have to say. Some of the answers we got just verifies there's some sort of activity there, regardless of who it is, what it is, or if it's something
Right.
that is known to be there, there's some sort of activity going on.
For sure, for sure. What was your favorite part of the night?
I'm not gonna lie, my favorite part was probably that EVP session. It had my adrenaline pumping. We were getting movement around us, and then making it out. Probably we're really close.
Right.
Either one making it back out to the car and getting ready to finish up and stuff. That was a good feeling, being out of those woods, because let's face it, you're in the dark in the woods, and it was pretty awesome. Not gonna lie.
All right. So did you guys capture more than you guys were anticipating?
I would have to say yes. I went in there thinking, well, there's a good chance we aren't going to capture much here, just because of the fact that, the location itself has never actually been investigated like this before.
Right.
And there was no evidence to prove anything at that time that it was as haunted as we were able to find out for ourselves. So yeah, I would have to say I believe so. I can't speak for the other two because
Right.
I'm not them, but I would have to say personally, I believe we captured way more than I anticipated on capturing there. With everything after I learned the history of the place, I did expect to capture something. I ain't gonna lie, because the situations that were involved,
Right.
and stuff like that.
All right. So was it like being back in Nebraska investigating?
Well, being back in Nebraska investigating, I would have to say means a ton to us, because obviously we've been in different states investigating more recently, Iowa, Kansas, stuff like that. And there ain't a lot of Nebraska content out there. We had our first residential from Nebraska. We had our first residential from Nebraska this year, which was awesome. The Osborne Trailer, that place,
Right.
We were able to actually make a return during this series right here that we're in Nebraska investigating, and stop there again for a second time, and I was there alone. So that was a great experience. And we're still actually investigating in Nebraska. We got a couple more spots we're going to, like Valentine. We have a live video up on our YouTube right now from Valentine. We are dropping our 3 a.m. from Valentine. Everything that happened after the live feed will be dropped on the channel coming up. And
Right. Fabulous.
there are a couple other places that will be dropping. And at the end, during the last investigation from our Nebraska investigations, we're going to put a big tribute out for our supporters that are no longer with us, and how much we greatly appreciate them, because obviously their support pushed us to keep pushing. Now we're growing as a community massively, and we're very thankful for all of our supporters and everyone.
Yes, we are. All right. I couldn't agree more with that. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like, the subscribe, and possibly leave a comment. We drop content on a weekly basis, so we'd be grateful to have you guys part of our community.
We'll catch you next week as we drop another episode right here on Mystical Shadows 402.